Get fast, reliable speeds at home and on the go with internet and mobile from Xfinity. Switch to Xfinity Internet with unlimited data included, so you can do more of what you love online. They have deals with a 2-year rate guarantee and no annual contract required, so it's risk-free. Plus, when you add Xfinity Mobile, you'll get connected to the fastest mobile service, and you'll get major savings. Go to Xfinity.com/faster, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store to learn more. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet.
Welcome to Women Winning Divorce with your host, Heather Quick. Heather brings over 20 years of law experience that advocates and empowers women to achieve happier and healthier lives. Each week, we provide knowledge and guidance on different aspects of family law to help lead women through the difficult and emotional legal challenges that they are facing. Listen in as she discusses issues including divorce, custody, alimony, paternity, narcissism, mediation, and other family law issues to provide insight on the journey of women winning divorce. Welcome to the show. I'm Julie Morgan, and I'm joined by your host, Heather Quick.
Hi, Heather. How are you today?
I'm great, Julie. How are you?
I'm doing very well. You know, we're about to get into a topic that's a really good one.
Yes, this one's juicy, and I know that our listeners have been waiting for it because we've been teasing them all along with all of our topics.
Yeah, I mean, Heather, seriously, you said the listeners have been waiting. I mean, I've been waiting for this one too.
I know. It's true. It's so fascinating and like hard to believe at the same time, so it's a good topic for sure.
Yes, it is. And I know everyone's listening and they're thinking, what in the world is she talking about? All right, narcissism. So how would you define a narcissist?
Well, so if you look at the dictionary definition of a narcissist, it is someone who has an excessive interest in themselves or, admiration of themselves. And so that's like a very basic definition.
And you know what? I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, everyone really likes themselves. Well, we would like to think that everyone really likes themselves. But this is one of the words that you just used was excessive.
And that's really the definition. And it will become clear as we go through. I'm not talking about somebody who, likes to look nice or looks at themselves in the mirror. It just goes beyond. And then that's where it becomes really like pathological. It crosses that line. And I'm hopeful as we go through it, that'll be clear that this is different than, what is maybe, hey, I like looking at myself. I like to look nice. It's a little bit more than that.
Right. It's more than and you know what I'm looking, I actually have this question down. It's more than just high self-esteem.
Correct. And actually it's probably stems from a low self-esteem, because then you just put on this crazy behavior and treat other people so badly that you're feeding some kind of, hole in yourself.
As with many other things, there are levels to narcissism, right?
Yes.
What are some of those levels?
There are certain extremes, and then there's some mild areas. And I would imagine all of us at one point, hey, we exhibit some of this. Not everybody, but a lot. But that doesn't mean it's the, full personality disorder. And it's really like, if you look at it, and this is kind of funny to me, but yet this is an example of someone who takes a lot of selfies. Okay, well, that is all children at this point. So that's not who I'm talking about. It's really constantly talking about themselves. They may have a level of narcissism, and we all know them. You can be in a crowd, have a conversation, and the one thing you say, and then now it's all about their trip. Someone asks you, hey, how was your trip to, Colorado? And you start to say, oh my gosh, we had this great time. We went there. And then that person butts in and talks about their entire trip and now has monopolized the conversation. That is one example. And that's really at a beginning level. It's really when you go to people who have that narcissistic personality disorder, they really torment and abuse those around them. And that's what tips it over. That's like the real meat of it.
That's extreme. That's high self-esteem, but really low self-esteem on a whole nother level.
It is, because it is so dysfunctional. It doesn't even begin. It's really pathological because it becomes such a way of life that they are going to this extreme, and it really becomes extremely abusive.
But many women, if they're involved with a narcissist, they may not even know it.
They don't. And I have found, like in my experience, I've had an opportunity to speak with so many women over the years. And there are the patterns that you hear. And sometimes they'll come to us and they'll be like, I really didn't know that, I was married to a narcissist. Many times they learn this through their own therapy because they're understanding what they're going through, and their therapist will be like, I really think he's probably a narcissist. And then maybe they watch some of our videos, our content, and they do the research themselves, and they start to realize, oh my goodness, this is me. This is my relationship, because it's not readily apparent. And, we've talked about this so often. So any woman who, as we go through this and feel any shame or embarrassment, please don't, because it's not readily apparent. And we'll talk about that, how they really, just put themselves in your life and kind of take over. And it's very manipulative and very deceitful, but you just don't even know. You're really unaware when it's happening.
So she may not find out that she's dealing with a narcissist, or she's in a relationship with a narcissist, until possibly she's in her own therapy herself.
Very potential. I mean, many women have had that experience, and and those are the things that they've told me. Also, Julie, let's keep in mind, sometimes we don't want to know, because that's just scary, because then it opens it up, and you wonder, what does it say about me? And then I think I love this person. What does it say about them? And, before you really understand the toxicity of it, because you don't want to see it.
So it's something, actually, you mentioned this in our show last week, or possibly even the week before, where we don't want to, is certain things we just don't want to admit to ourselves.
It's true. I think that is a normal defense mechanism, normal coping mechanism. Most women, most individuals, you're recognizing something's not right. Now, very common when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they have made you're pretty much thinking you're crazy, and you're really pretty much thinking you are the problem. That is when you then seek therapy and then begin to understand you're not the problem. You're not the one who's crazy. This is what is in fact going on.
So it sounds like they're very manipulative.
Extremely manipulative.
So I think about a narcissist and I'm thinking they probably have a special way of picking their targets, saying, that person is really going to fall for whatever it is that I give them.
Probably so. But they know that the woman responds to their charm. The woman is enamored with the flattery, with the attention showered on them. So I think they can spot that. And, obviously, are they responding, or do they think I'm too much and they're like, no, thank you. So I think it's in that initial spot, because they really will seem like Prince Charming. I mean, they will shower you. You will become the most important person in their life. And I think sometimes, like, hey, you've dated somebody and you're like, okay, I think they're a little bit extra. And like, I just met this person. How can they be like so all in? But if maybe there's an attraction, some women may think this is the best thing ever. And that's where it starts, because it's constant showering of compliments, but also they're trying to, it is control, as it always goes back to that to some extent, but it's more of like a monopoly of your time and your attention.
No woman is probably immune to this, because we all like to be told that we're pretty.
Well, yeah, and that you're smart, and that generally, like, a lot of things that they will tell you has attracted them to you are the things they're not going to like later. Like if you're independent, or maybe you have your own life, well, then they're going to want you to not have that independence, your own friend network. And so what are they going to do? They're going to give you gifts. They're going to take you out to lovely dinners, flowers, trips, jewelry, and it is like too much, but yet you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is who I've been looking for, my whole life. And they call the time they want to be with you. And that's the way you feel it at the time, because they're taking you places, to dinner, on trips and shopping. Later, it becomes smothering. But if you don't recognize it as smothering in the beginning, then you're probably quite susceptible to their advances.
And you know what I also just thought about? It's possible that if they've done this before, and they probably have, they can identify personality traits in the woman that they saw before. And so this will happen, and the same thing will happen again.
Oh, it's true. It's clearly a pattern. What I have seen in our experience representing women for so long is that some women repeat this pattern and may marry this type of person again and again and again, or date this type of person again and again, and until they can really see it and say, oh, that I see where that ends up, so I need to make a change with myself in the beginning so I don't end up in that kind of relationship.
So it's not only a pattern for him, it's also possibly a pattern for her as well.
Well, yes, because there's the types of things that attract you to a narcissist are pretty much like we talked about, Stan. They're smart, they're charming, they're usually successful. And they tell you all about it so that you get a sense of, oh, wow, this guy is somebody I want to be with. And he, wants to take care of me. And he wants to give me all of these things. And he's such a great business person, or business owner, or doctor, lawyer, architect, whatever. He's just wonderful. So yes, that you will see those similarities in narcissistic personalities. Those are, what I think if women really were to look at, they'd be like, oh yeah, those types of things I'm attracted to. So I do think it is something that requires a look at your own self and what you're seeing, but only once you understand it, know. Because if you don't know, you just don't know.
And I can appreciate something that you started off this conversation with. Don't feel bad if this is something that has happened to you or is happening to you.
Exactly. It's just those types of things that may be who you would be compatible with or attracted to. That's how it starts. And then it turns into where it's toxic, more pathological. And again, you don't see it in the beginning. And usually you're too far in before it really starts to show up to you. And then you don't know what to do.
And another thing I thought about, what if if you have possibly daddy issues and they see that? I mean, it's just something that happens possibly. And so you may have, certain issues, and then they see that, and then they really play into that.
I think so. I would certainly, without, only from what I have learned just through experience, not in studying psychology. Yes, because we all have our own, our family history, our family story, and the things that we've grown up with and seen as acceptable. And, when I say that, I am speaking to women with children, because they are seeing this as acceptable, because you might have seen it as acceptable, or your husband, your partner. So you learn it from really your family of origin, where you grew up and what you grew up with. And that is important, and just to very much just acknowledge and recognize it to be true. We all grow up like that. And we either are able to say, hey, this was a great, healthy thing, a relationship I learned from, or this was not. But not always are we able to really see that, hey, I witnessed a relationship that wasn't healthy growing up, until we're much older and we've had, some therapy, some work on our personal self and really begin to understand things that aren't a blame, but just understanding different people. Otherwise, you do repeat the pattern.
And there goes therapy again. We've talked about that in other shows. We've talked about how therapy is something that that can really be good for you.
It really is. There's very few people. I do not know if I've ever heard, oh, there's real downside to therapy. There really isn't. It takes work, and we all can use, there's nothing wrong with working on yourself and understanding yourself and understanding your behaviors. And then once you have insight into yourself, you can see maybe some other insights into your partner. And that's where I say, like, this is not a shame or blame type situation, because if you didn't know that about yourself, then why would you beat yourself up? You just didn't know that yesterday. Now, today, you've learned something about yourself. You've learned something about your relationship. Okay, now you have that knowledge and you can begin to work on that.
Don't beat yourself up. Heather, I see this being 2 shows. I'm just letting you know. I can see it. I can see it now.
It is. And it's because it's so, like, it's just so overwhelming for the person and the woman in this relationship. Moves so fastly. Like, there's so many aspects of it. And I do think it deserves the time and the conversation that we can give it, because I do think women who have been in a relationship or are in a relationship with a narcissist and really suffering through it, that there's a lot of information here that can help them.
Truly is. How do you identify a narcissist? This has to be a skill, and someone needs to get paid for this.
Well, yes, and it's true that it is a skill. So yes, of course, mental health professionals, they are trained in that. Now, what I've learned is just through the experientially, what I learned growing up. Frankly, my mother was married to several narcissists. Now, and did I know that at the time? No. But then as the divorce practice continued, and then, I think we've talked about it previously, I kept seeing the patterns that women were in that were similar, and in all women, I was just noticing that again and again. And then I really started to learn and understand that they were married to narcissists, and that they all different women, but there's a similar story. And then I thought, oh, wow, I remember that guy my mom was married to, and it was the exact same thing. And so in a conversation with a woman, and of course, our conversation is, she's coming to see us for divorce, or, some kind of protection and guidance. And I can hear pretty early on in a conversation, and then I can tell them essentially what their husband is doing behavior wise, because it's going to be the same. If they are a narcissist, you're just going to see those same patterns of what they do. So it is something I've been dealing with, and I had exposure to and really learned and studied it for years. So if you haven't had experience or consciously had experience or an understanding, no, you're not going to know that right away.
Narcissists, and you mentioned this before, but of course, this is on a totally different level. They're obsessed with their appearance and what others think of them.
Yes, and that's very important. And so because they have this outer appearance that they want, in the ideal of how they're going to be seen and portrayed to everybody, and where this, and how this goes and becomes, it's more than, hey, we want to look nice and want the family to dress up at special occasions. This is, they really want people to be jealous of them and to be like, oh, I want to be like this person. And so where that goes is, they expect their spouse, their children, everything to be perfect and look the part. So if they don't like the way you look, or tell you that, they're going to demean what you're wearing, or they don't like that, or the kids aren't looking appropriate and the house is dirty, or do this or do that. Because as we get into it, we'll dive into this. It's never their fault. So they are obsessed with their appearance and what everybody thinks of them, but that's why they need you there as their partner, because they're going to blame you when it's not. You look startled.
Of course I do, Heather. Of course I do. And everyone's listening. They said, Julie is always startled. I am. I mean, because you want people to be jealous of you. That's just another level, you know?
Well, it is. And that's what we're talking about, that pathological part that, you're really wanting people to envy you, and for something that may not even be true, because you're just putting up this facade of this perfect family, the magazine cover, the Facebook posts, and all of that. It's, or whatever social media, it's, all social media, all anything. It is the facade.
For something that may not even be true.
It's not, because you can imagine this person that's not perfect. Well, no one's perfect, but like that's a home life that if everybody's scared of you, and then you're, in behind closed doors within the family, you treat your family pretty terribly. And then, but on the outside, you are Mr. Charming. You're everybody's favorite person. You always get invited to the party that everybody thinks you guys, are the greatest. Oh, you have the best husband ever. Oh, we just love your dad. He's so great. So that's what these women and their children hear from neighbors, family, and everybody else.
And he wants them to hear that over and over and over again.
Exactly, because now, they think, maybe I'm crazy. Like, why does everybody else think he's so great? Seems like he's not very nice to me. He used to be, or I thought he was, but there's that questioning, like, why does everybody think he's the greatest? And because they're obsessed with their appearance, they're obsessed with what they put out there. So when women reach out to us, sometimes they are really worried. They're like, what is everybody going to think? They think he is the perfect husband. They're going to think I'm so stupid and crazy. Why would I leave? What's wrong with me? He's providing a nice life. He wants everything to be neat and orderly. He buys me pretty things. He takes care of us, and I do the quote marks because that's what he's told you. Right. Maybe he's taking care of you financially, but emotionally and psychologically, that's not really being taken care of. So it creates, probably most likely within most women, just this questioning, gosh, what have I done wrong? Because remember, he is not going to be the one who's at fault. It's always you. So you think, which lowers your self-esteem again and again and again, because you're constantly hearing now you're not good enough. So go do better. But then when you do get better, he praises you or other people, out there in public. So it's really, it's pretty dysfunctional as a, I don't even know. That's probably word does not even, cover it.
So when we're talking about appearance, okay, not only just you, but the children, the house, the car, everything has to be on point. And if it's not, it seems like this could, unfortunately, and we've talked about abuse before, it could lead to abuse. That's just what I'm thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Because, at some point they may or may not snap, and it's going to be abusive one way or another, verbally, emotionally, and then maybe physically, because you got to continue to play the part, put on the show. And part of what you'll see with the narcissist is then, a lot of it may be very unreal expectations of how things should be, but then there's going to be the anger and the blaming of you if it's not what they said they wanted it to be or expected, you know, everybody to be dressed or clean or whatever, because then now what are other people going to think? They're not going to think, I'm the greatest in the world, which is what he wants everyone to think.
And the reason that some of this stuff may not have happened, it could be his fault.
Oh, it probably is his fault, but nothing ever that part of the conversation never happens from most narcissists, because they will, and I'll tell you, even if they're the ones that leave and they're the ones that do that, it's your fault. I'm telling you, they never ever take responsibility.
Okay. You know what that sounds like to me, though? It also sounds like that's a child. So, children sometimes don't want to take responsibility for their actions, right? As an adult, you learn that's what you have to do. But that just sounds like a child to me.
Well, and very much so, but they also they live in their own world of reality and in their ego. So they haven't accepted that they have to own responsibility for their actions, because they're above that, and everyone else is usually to blame.
Yeah, that's childish. That just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. And again, Julie is randomly saying things. Please don't pay attention to her.
No, but you're right. And the thing is, when we talk about it in this way, it makes sense. But I'll tell you, you've met several of them, through your life, particularly in the workplace and dinner parties. And now you'll be like, oh, I bet that person is. We all get a little, anytime I read something and get a little bit of knowledge, boy, I'm ready to go diagnose everybody. But, and I say that in jest, because in only to make light, but it's okay. Cause sometimes we do think that. I do anyway. I may be the only, crazy one, but I've been doing this for so long now that I can see things. But I think anybody listening to this will be like, oh yeah, I remember that person. I wonder if they're a narcissist. Like I said, there's a lot of traits, a lot of things you see that may or may not, but because it builds on each other, right? So we all know the obnoxious person who talks all the time. Okay, are they a narcissist? I don't know. But it's one of the traits. And so then it's, it's not just one thing. It's really, you add them all up, and then, hey, now we're at 20, and then you see it again and again. You're like, yeah, they very well, may be. And really the person who knows best is the one who's in the relationship with them, because then what they share with you is then it's going to be more clear, because of what we've started to talk about, that Prince Charming that turns into, the abusive, self-obsessed partner.
Okay. Sometimes again, I say random things, but I wonder if a narcissist if they've ever, listened to a song about narcissism or what have you, if they've ever done that and said, oh my goodness, that's me.
I really don't think so, because that would be a level of self-awareness that they don't have, and they're gonna, more often than not, in my experience, they avoid a therapy session or anything like that, like it's, hot fire or something. They may tell you they'll go to therapy, and they may start, and this is also another good example, they'll never finish, because then that therapist is not good, and then they don't like that therapist, and so therefore probably when about session 2 or 3, the therapist's like, I think I got your number. Oh, then they're out. And they most likely, and that will be if your narcissist husband is doing therapy, even family therapy with kids, then they're going to start to say, nope, changing therapists. I don't want him seeing that kid. I don't want my child seeing this person, because then they're starting to understand and get to know the dynamic, and they may say something that narcissist does not want to hear.
And if I don't see them telling the therapist, oh, yes, I've seen 5 therapists already. I don't see them telling them that. But if they did tell the therapist, yes, I've been to therapy a number of times and I've seen so many different therapists, the therapist can almost right then and there say, huh, well, something isn't right.
Exactly. Again, it's just if you don't really, they don't want anybody to get to know them too much. They're very likely not going to open up, not be honest in that setting, unless they truly are acknowledging what's going on with them and wanting help,
Yeah, yeah,
would be
I was
my
thinking.
interpretation of that. I don't think I've ever been experienced that, in representing women, that's what they want. Usually it's very manipulative if they say they're going to do that. So I don't know that there are many, recovering narcissists.
Yeah, because the first step in any addiction or issue that you may have is to admit that you have a problem.
Correct. And with a narcissist, everyone else has a problem.
Not
They're
them.
very critical of everyone else. Again, it's more, their ego. They are the most important person in the room. And it's just very unlikely that they're going to see anything wrong with that to want to change.
And that's just crazy. I mean, we a lot of people don't like that word, but that just doesn't make sense. You know, it just doesn't make sense. Oh boy. They use everyone in their lives to feed their egos, as if
Yep.
no one has anything else to do.
Right. But they're so good at that. And they do put themselves around, people. That's one of those things that, they'll notice and pick up on the type of people in their workplace or even in their social group, like
Hmm.
that sycophant. You've heard that word, who is, really just kind of all over a person just to kind of gain an advantage, or they agree with everything of their boss and they're just a little bit obnoxious. Well, they're going to love those kind of people, and they're going to be able to spot that and make them think, because again, this is all a facade. They're going to make these folks think, oh, I can give them something, when really they're feeding their own ego. They're getting that attention, and they're going to surround themselves with those kinds of people who are going to tell them how great they are in business and work. And I'm not saying that is not true, may or may not be true. There are a lot of great people who do great things who don't need someone telling them that all the time, and or in their social settings and where they go to eat and picking a wine, or playing tennis or soccer or whatever they do, golf. They're going to want to surround themselves, and you'll see that they have surrounded themselves with individuals who do feed their ego. They won't hang out with other people who won't. Rarely. They really won't.
Because that's something that they need to continue to hear all the time.
Exactly. They need that feeding their ego. They would, I bet, probably be a little ridiculously competitive in like a social setting. Again, like where you think of like if you're playing a sport and then carrying it over. I know there's several movies where then the guy like goes a little crazy and takes it to another level, because that's what they need to do. So it's, I play tennis, so I give tennis could be an example, and they're just obnoxious with winning in everything. And I think, again, we just talk about the next level, because I know a lot of competitive people. I'm competitive. It's just more of a, they're going to play the child so that they can just crush them, or something silly. But again, it's that constant need to feed that ego.
And you know what? Okay, so This goes back to the beginning of the show, the first segment of the show. I mentioned this seems like high self-esteem on another level. And you said that actually it's more low self-esteem. That right there lends to the fact that it really is low self-esteem because it's something that they constantly need to hear. Someone with high self-esteem, they don't need that.
Correct. And if you have a high self-esteem, you don't put other people down. You're more likely to lift other people up. And it's very, it's a bully. We all know what a bully is. These people are bullies. And most bullies have a low self-esteem, and somebody stands up to them. That's not who they want to be around. They want to be around people who they can boss around, put down, so that they then feel better, which we know. I mean, that's just pathological, that your need to feel good is only really achieved when others are feeling bad.
Mm. I just finished your sentence there,
I know,
Heather.
I know. We're on
I'm
the
getting
same page, girl. You're gonna be
ah,
like, I'm ready to go to law school, Heather. We're gonna come in. I'm ready to take down these narcissists. I'm
I'm
ready. You know, I'll
getting
make a
it.
spot for you.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool. I could be on the website wearing my black.
You know
Anyway.
it. High heels, black suit. We got you.
Oh man. Okay. Now this is a point. They talk to other people, but they don't really listen to what the other person is saying.
That is correct. And it's again that example of they may be in a group and they're going to always bring it back to themselves. Anytime any person has something, they're always bringing it back to themselves because they're seeking attention. They're wanting, everyone to hear them and hear what they have to say. They really don't have the patience or attention to listen to somebody else. They're not going to have that kind of um, attention span to listen to another person's conversation. Now, there may be situations, obviously, if it could be in business and workplace areas where somebody else has to be in charge or is in charge. And I think, and this is just kind of came to me now, but it makes sense. That is why sometimes they are so very successful, because they can't stand working for somebody else. So they're willing to do what it takes to be the boss, to be the best, because not only do they have to hear it, it doesn't mean they aren't good at some things or they have good skills. But I think that need to be in charge, to be, the most noticed in the room, so you got to do something for it. So very often they do.
I didn't even think about that. Another thing you mentioned is the fact that they put other people down, like these little digs at people, about possibly their personal appearance, what you watch on television, anything.
And when there's that constant criticism, and it's not constructive criticism, it's criticism. And then if you're offended or you get upset, they're going to tell you you're too sensitive. Oh, you can't take a joke, come on. But it's, again, not one thing, it's everything in anything that you do.
You can't take a joke. I mean, it's just a bit much, it's just people can take a joke. You're not too sensitive. It's just that they're just going overboard.
Because it's not a joke and it's not funny, but they're making you think that, because you wonder, well, am I being too serious? Am I taking everything too literally? But I think it's fair to say, no, it's not a joke. But it's their version, their view. And you have become so immersed in that world that you begin to question your own sense of, how am I reacting? Am I overreacting? When did I get so sensitive?
And you just look at yourself and you say something's wrong with you. That's where I keep going back to. It's making you feel like there's something wrong with you. And that's just not right.
And there's not. And then that turns into your self-esteem going down. And I think a lot of that, and I would say everybody has periods of, where you're feeling lower in self-esteem or not. We all do.
Yeah.
And that's probably maybe when they kind of wormed their way in and they built you up and gave you all that attention. And that's where I say it's more of breaking your spirit. It's like they built you up and made you just kind of fall for all of this attention, all of this adoration and gifts, and just pouring it on. And now they take it away and you want it back because that feels good. And so you can see where now they understand, oh, if I'm mean, now she's going to be so sad. So I will then dole out some attention. Okay, you're better now. Let's go out. Okay, you've changed your dress. Now we can go out to dinner.
That sounded almost like a backhanded compliment.
Well, that sounds that's a good description for it. I would absolutely agree.
I mean, that's what I think of. That's just, oh boy. And so they really don't have any empathy. That's what it sounds like also to me. They lack empathy.
Yes, that is exactly true. It's one of the biggest problems of a narcissist. They have no regard for anyone else's feelings, thoughts, or opinions. And, it's a lack of empathy because you just can't even see it from someone else's point of view, or say, okay, I could see why that would be hurtful or anything. Because again, that means thinking about someone other than yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Really think about that. So all of this, they're extremely controlling because really that's what it all boils down to. The control that they want to have over you. They're extremely controlling.
Yes, and it just it permeates your entire life because of their need to control, which then builds up their ego and gives them in their mind. But it is power, and that's what they're wanting. They're wanting power and control over everything in their life and their relationship, so that you are dependent on them. And in a relationship, I think healthy relationships, yeah, you're codependent, you depend on each other and you do rely on each other, and that would be very normal. This is going to the extreme. This isn't the normal. This is wanting to not only require that dependence, but that it, and that they, it's like if it's over the finances. Okay, yeah, hey, there are tons of families and marriages where, the husband works and the wife is at home, and maybe not the whole marriage, but a portion of that. But when we go to this extreme, it's more like, no, and I earn the money. This is my money. You want it, you're going to have to ask, or if you don't do or act in a way that I want, then they'll take something away. So that's where it turned, like, nope, I'm taking the keys. You're not driving that car today. It's a filthy mess. Look at what you did to that car. They could take it away. It's that kind of extreme.
Oh, Heather.
I know. I've gotten you all perplexed again that this could really happen.
You do, because, okay, so this actually, you mentioned the financial piece. This actually goes back to our show about financial abuse. If you want to listen to the show, you can go to our website, womenwinningdivorce.com. But so they're big on financial control.
Very much so, because that is a readily available way to control somebody. That you're going to probably see immediate results because we need, like we've discussed, hey, I need the money to put gas in the car, to go buy groceries, to do things So if they can take that away or limit that, like that show, which if anything in this show is touching a nerve or seems familiar, I agree, Julie, go back and listen to that one. Because again, these are these types of abuse that you may not see. It's not, and it may not resonate until you're hearing this show and you're going, oh my goodness, that seems like something he does. Like, all right, why do I get a text that he's like, why did you spend this money here? Or, limiting the amount on the cards, because again, it's power and control over you and requiring you to rely on him because that makes him more important.
Okay, Heather. You know what? We have a lot more to talk about on this topic.
Yes,
so, we do. If you missed any of the show, again, you can go to the website, womenwinningdivorce.com, to listen to the show, download the other episodes, and then come back next week because we're talking about narcissism again. Anything else you want to add?
Well, only if we're going on for a few more hours. So I think what we will do is just save the rest for later because there's a lot there. If any, and all I would say is if any of this has resonated with anyone, please reach out if you are in need of help or some guidance, because that is what we're here for.
Absolutely. Heather, it was great to see you again.
Absolutely, Julie. Thank you so much. I look forward to continuing our conversation.
Me too.
Thank you for listening to Women Winning Divorce. We hope you found information to help you navigate your divorce. If you like our show, please take the time to subscribe and provide a 5-star review. If you need more information, please visit our website at womenwinningdivorce.com, where you will find previous episodes and other helpful content. Join us next week as we continue our journey of women winning divorce.
Get fast, reliable speeds at home and on the go with internet and mobile from Xfinity. Switch to Xfinity Internet with unlimited data included, so you can do more of what you love online. They have deals with a 2-year rate guarantee and no annual contract required, so it's risk-free. Plus, when you add Xfinity Mobile, you'll get connected to the fastest mobile service, and you'll get major savings. Go to Xfinity.com/faster, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store to learn more.